Hi, I'm Sumit Bose, and this is the Net Hero podcast. Who's it for? It's for you. If you care about the planet and you care about business. We believe that businesses are responsible for a lot of the damage that has been done to the planet, but they're also responsible for finding the solutions. We need innovation, we need ideas, we need people who are trying to make a difference, and that's what this podcast is about. If you know someone who is trying to make a change, then get them to come along on the podcast. Listen in every week, subscribe, and make sure that you follow us on social media. Our two news platforms, Energy Live News and Future Net Zero, cover everything we do. And this episode is recorded live, so enjoy. Now, let's be honest, most of us are pretty crap at having a life without our devices. I'm one of them, and I log on to read the news, but I also watch a lot of stuff. And most of us now watch far more on our screens than through traditional television. You know the score, you're either watching Netflix or Prime or something. There's all these streaming services. And a lot of them have some very good documentaries on them. But there's a channel that's been set up, which I thought was really interesting to feature on this podcast, which is called EcoFlix. And what it's trying to do is it's trying to get us, the viewer, to engage in the subjects that matter to us with groups, generally NGOs, people trying to do things that protect the planet. So what's it about? How is it funded? How can you watch this stuff, and what is its aim? I'm delighted to say, joining me from the US of A, David Castleman is here, the man behind EcoFlix. David, hello, good morning. Thank you for getting up so early.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, first of all, what's your background, David? Are you a TV man? Are you a sort of a naturalist? Are you someone that's kind of in business?
No, I'm an unnaturalist. I'm a recovering trial lawyer.
Oh, my God. Are you on the clock? Do I need to worry?
No, I'm very much off the clock. In fact, I spent 42 years trying major cases in Los Angeles and around California, but I decided very early in my career, for a variety of reasons, which at least I found interesting, that representing animals that had no voice was a passion of mine. I didn't know where it came from. I fell in love with it. For my entire career, practically, I did pro bono work for animals, from the smallest creatures to even elephants in zoos. I spent $8 million of my time over a 7-year period trying to free Billy the elephant from the LA Zoo. Went all the way to the California Supreme Court through trial. I mean, it was a big part of my life, still is in some ways. But yeah, for me, my law background somehow became the arm that I could use to try and wield some justice for animals. And I saved, I'd like to say, a lot of animals that just didn't have a voice. Their owners couldn't afford to pay a lawyer. It was just not an option for them to survive under the systems that exist. And so I just thought it was a gift for me. I felt like it was an opportunity to do something. And so I helped a lot of animals. But when I retired and I gave up the sword of Damocles that I had been using to accomplish my stuff, I had to reinvent myself. And that's how EcoFlix came into existence.
We'll talk about EcoFlix in a moment. Just getting on to this first thing, because people have heard, I remember my sister used to be involved herself when she was a lot younger in kind of charities going around the world trying to rescue things like bears and stuff like that. And we've seen, there are animal charities, the RSPCA in the UK, and there's the American, I can't remember what it's called, but
Humane Society.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Looks after all of that. But obviously, cases that you probably, what you've said, perhaps you can tell the audience a bit more about it. But are you talking about things like, there's that movie Free Willy, but, there are animals that are wild that were kept in safari parks and sea parks and things like that. Is that the sort of stuff that you got involved with?
I've been involved in everything you could imagine. I could spend hours just telling you about experiences. You learn so much as you blunder through life. And in the case of animals, I was very fortunate to have some wonderful teachers. And early in my life, it was kind of an amazing thing I fell into. I was able to form a sanctuary in Cambodia.
Oh, wow.
And we've been rescuing elephants and every kind of animal you can imagine since 2001. And in the course of that, I met a woman named Lek Chyler. She's very secretive at the time. There's a death threat out for her life, but she started Elephant Nature Park in Thailand. And I learned so much from Lek, and we've been close and we support each other and have been working together on so many causes in so many ways. And what I learned from her took what I knew as a lawyer to another level. I became much more knowledgeable about the real plight of not only animals, but nonprofits. I was
Yeah.
a nonprofit since 2001, but I really didn't understand that there are good nonprofits and there are bad nonprofits. There are good sanctuaries and there are horrible sanctuaries. There are
Mm.
people who lie to you and tell you they're doing good things for animals to get your money. There are politicians that are just evil and they are doing terrible things while claiming they're doing good things, and on and on. And so I was sort of seasoned in the life, if you will, of an animal advocate over those first few years. And I keep learning every day. It's not like, gee, I passed a finish line when I was 3 years into this. It's an ongoing thing.
Oh, are you an animal lover from, did you have cats, dogs, whatever? Did you grow up with animals? Where did you grow up in?
You know, it's funny. I grew up in a place called Michigan,
Oh, yeah.
Detroit, and when I was a little boy, I had an experience, and I didn't even know that this was important. Someone asked me after I'd started EcoFlix, was well into it, what was your origin story? And
Yeah, yeah.
I thought about, I thought my parents got together. That's how I
Yeah,
was.
that's the origin.
What do you mean? And they said, no, no, no. I mean, like, how did you fall in love with animals? And I said, well, I don't know. I guess everybody loves animals. And it was like 3 or 4 hours later in the same day, my mind in the background while I was doing other things was working on it. And I ended up writing a little book, which I've never published, but I printed it for my grandchildren. It's
Lovely.
How a Chipmunk Saved an Elephant.
Right.
And what it's about was my origin story. I was a little kid, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, and I was at camp and I saw a chipmunk running like maybe 30, 40 yards away, and I was a little baseball player to be, and I whipped a rock at this chipmunk thinking it was a target, and it was
Of course.
running. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it was like irresistible, I
Of
guess, to
course.
an idiot child. And I hit it square in the head.
Oh, wow.
And I was elated.
Home
I thought
run.
this is like the greatest throw of my life. I'm going to be, famous baseball player. And I ran over and this little chipmunk was spinning around and it had a ball of blood on its ear
Ooh.
and it stopped. It was dead. And I looked at it and I can't describe the feeling any more than saying it felt like I was crying, and my
Yeah.
two sides started to sort of fuse. It felt like there was something changing inside of me physically. I've never felt anything like it before or since, and I didn't understand it. I didn't walk away from there as an animal advocate. I had no idea what happened, except that I really had a strong feeling I did not ever want to do that again because it hurt me and I was crying about it, and I tried to put it out of my mind. And
Mm.
I think that was sort of haunting my existence for many, many years. Maybe it's karma, I don't know what you call it, but that
Yeah.
little chipmunk changed my life and hopefully has changed many other animals' lives, including elephants in Cambodia and many other places that we're working to save them.
Did you become, I mean, everyone's very different, right? Did you become vegetarian, vegan, or were you that? Or you just kind of, this whole thing has just bubbled in underneath your career and has now come to the fore?
Well, yes, and I would say maybe 20 plus years ago, 25, people were saying to me, how come you're not a vegan?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
and I used to say, well, when tigers become vegan, talk to me.
Exactly. But this is a very good point that there is such a polarity in society now that you can't be, oh, you like animals, but you eat them. How is that possible? Well,
Yes, but that's part of the evolutionary process. I don't eat meat anymore. 30 plus years ago, I stopped eating meat, not because anybody told me I
yeah,
shouldn't eat meat, because that just doesn't work. You tell somebody else, you really shouldn't be doing that. It's bad for the planet. And that's like, okay, I'm going to eat twice as much because that
sure.
guy's lecturing to me. No, what happened was I read a book called The China Study.
Hmm.
And for anybody who hasn't read it, I strongly recommend it. And it's not about trying to turn you into a vegan because it's good for the planet, even though it's good for the planet. It was telling me that eating animals is not natural. It
Mm,
may be how we evolved. It may
Yeah.
be how some creatures live, but tigers never live past 20 or 30 years maximum.
True.
So if you want to live a long time, that may not be the recipe.
It's always the vegetarians that live the longest. Look at the elephants.
Yes, and if you look in the biggest animals, dinosaurs. But I
Mhm.
mean, the thing it's so crazy is this China study was a human study that was based in part on some animal studies, but they met this guy from China who was in the health department, and he was able to do what the American scientists couldn't do, which was have a huge epidemiological and relevant human study.
Yeah.
He took groups where one group was human vegans and one group was animals, and the government mandated it. You don't do that in any other country.
No.
But what happened was it really proved for the last and first time, I think, that animals and people are not made to consume meat and live long. It's
Wow.
good for strength, it's good for other
Yeah.
things, and you need protein, but there's
Sure.
other ways to get protein. And so I don't ever tell people don't eat meat. I don't
Yeah.
ever lecture to anybody because I was lectured to, and it didn't work for me. But I found alternatives and usually don't eat animal protein of any kind if I can avoid it.
So let's talk about this transition from lawyer. You get involved in these courses, and that's all of that. It's a very different thing to launch a TV, a film station. So, again, how did EcoFlix come about?
Yeah. Well, it takes a certain amount of ignorance, and I would say hubris. You need to be both stupid and not afraid to fail.
Okay.
And a lot of aspects of my life, I think, are proof of that. I've done a variety of things that just inspired me at the time, and I was willing to take the risk. I didn't mind losing because it felt like not doing anything I had already lost. And so when I retired, it was right at the beginning of COVID, and filmmaking had stopped basically
Yeah.
worldwide,
Yep.
wildlife filmmaking, and there were no outlets for wildlife filmmakers. I had been involved in making a film called Love and Bananas, an elephant's love story, and it was nominated for an Academy Award as a documentary. I can't take any credit, but I did put the players in the film together and I helped facilitate it. I executive produced it, and it helped change people. It's all about the evils of elephant trekking,
Mm.
riding elephants in Thailand, but it doesn't lecture to you. It's not at all about saying you're a bad person because you rode an elephant. The truth is, it's the best kept secret in most of these countries, and they want you to ride because they can make money at it, but
Of
it's not
course.
good for the elephants and what they
No.
do to the elephants to allow you to ride them. I mean, it seems like so natural. Like I love horses. I've had horses for many years. Horses don't mind you riding them, and you can love an animal and they can love you back, and it's okay. Elephants are wild, they're not domesticated, they don't ever
No.
love you that way.
No.
And so you have to brutalize them, and in ways that if people knew, they
Yep.
wouldn't ride elephants. So this movie was an attempt to try to gently teach them. And it was a lovely story and it had a massive impact. My partner, Lek, who I referred to, went with the film all over the world and still does, and talks to audiences to educate them about what the dirty secret is about elephant trekking. And on the strength of that film, she stopped 90% of the trekking in Thailand. It was the number one tourist attraction when we
Wow.
started. And it had such a powerful impact on trekking and on me that I thought, wow, the power of film is way more than I realized. So when I retired, it was years after I had helped produce Love and Bananas. I thought maybe thoughtful filmmaking could do that more, different, better. And so we are experimenting, doing all kinds of things all the time, including using AI, which I'd love to talk about when you're ready. But
Yeah.
it's bad things can be used for good purposes.
So what's the concept? So EcoFlix is a bit like a Netflix, right? So you log on and there's a variety of films to go and watch. Yeah. I can watch for free. Is that right?
Yes.
But who makes the films? How are they vetted? Because people go, right, I'm from the world of TV, you pitch, there's a producer, there's a studio, give you budget, and then you go and make a documentary. So how does that all work? Because making these things costs money.
It does, and it doesn't work anything like that. So when I retired, I was fortunate to have made a nice living.
Yeah,
Not enough to start a film studio or to make films for, the way they're traditionally made. But there was nothing traditional about what I wanted to do. First thing I decided very early on when I had a team assembled is, listen, all the filmmakers that are working with us, you're not going to fly all over the world with crews and film movies. This is antithetical to what we're trying to do.
absolutely.
So we are going to do this in a sustainable way. And they said, well, that's not possible. I said, well, for anybody who thinks it's not possible, there's the door. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to partner with nonprofits all over the world. We're going to find the causes that are near and dear to their hearts, our hearts. We'll partner together where possible. If it's not possible, we'll do them on our own if it's important enough, and we'll hire a film crew locally and you'll talk to them over the phone or on your computer on a Zoom call or whatever, and you will explain what you need, and they'll work with you and they'll film it locally. Will we transfer it? The planet will thank you. And then when we get the film, yes, there'll be gaps. You call them back up and say, could we get a fill-in shot for this or that, or can we use, stock footage or whatever it might be? And the beauty of what I was doing was I knew nothing about filmmaking. I I didn't have a clue. I mean, I'd
Yeah, yeah,
never made a film, but I was involved in a couple, and so I've learned a lot since then. But nothing that changed my mind that you can't do the same thing differently, and that's what we've been doing. And so, for example, one of our great partners, we have over 75 partners worldwide now, and wherever they are, we are. When they make film that they want to get out to the world, they call us and they say, we've got this project here. Can we? And the answer is yes. I don't care what it is. If it's a good animal project, we want to make a story about it and educate the world because it's the darkness, the ignorance that is prevailing across the planet that allows people to do stuff that's not in their own interest. They don't even know. I was the same way. And in many cases, I learned new things every day. And I say to myself, how could I have not known that? I
yeah.
mean, just an endless amount. I mean, I'll give you one of the things that blew the top of my head off. Are you familiar with the mycorrhizal network?
Are you talking about fungi and all of that? Is that what you're talking about?
I am.
Fine.
Fungi,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even an animal or a plant. Who
No,
knew
they're in
that?
between. I was telling my little one that the other day. He's like, what's a mushroom? I said, it's in between.
Who knew that? Well, it turns out mushrooms are one form of fungi.
Mm.
There are other fungi that are under the ground. And when a tree, for example, by no means limiting in this tree, when they put their roots in the ground,
Yeah, yeah.
the fungi connect to the roots and it transmits
Yes.
information, nutrients, and other things. And very often, like kind plants network between each other with the fungi connecting their roots. It's the most unbelievable thing. Trees, we always wonder how do baby trees, they're just independent, they grow from a seed. Is it? No, they're falling near their parent, and the parent connects to the babies through the fungi, sends them nutrients, and helps them to grow.
Crazy. This is basically Avatar.
But it's just like, how did I not know that?
Yeah, yeah.
And there are things like tobacco crops, they get attacked by a predator, and they will network through the fungi, and they'll uniformly emit the hormone that calls in the mortal enemy of that predator.
Crazy.
And that pheromone will go out, the enemy will come in, it'll attack the thing that's killing the tobacco, and it saves the day. And it's like, who could have written something like this? Who could have made it up?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, a lot higher power, but
Yeah. So in essence, you're taking this is a brilliant idea what you've done because that is the thing. I've worked in TV and film, well, not film, but TV and I've made documentaries. Get on a plane, you have a whole bunch of film crew, you have some producer that ponces about, and you got to stay in a hotel, and then you're going to hire a local, you're going to go out in a truck, and you're going to go to a thing, and then you're going to get a fixer and all of that. You've dispensed with all of that. But you,
and we won't allow the local filmmakers we work with to
yeah,
proceed in unsustainable ways, like surrounding animals with trucks,
yeah, yeah,
and
all
trying to
that.
film
Yeah,
the animal in distress. You create the distress and then you film it. No.
no,
So we have rules that we follow, but they're all nonprofits working with us. So they have the same ethos in most cases. So it works out just fine. We tell them what we're looking for. And if they do something we don't agree with, we would talk about it, but that's really never been an issue.
the people who make the films then, so obviously there's got to be a budget. Do you guys fund it then to help them? Are they
Well,
funded by kind of other charities? How does it work? Because you still got to get people out there.
right. It's I've been using my own funds principally for
Wow.
EcoFlix, and I have had some donations over the years, and I thank everybody who's donated. But unfortunately, if you add all the donations together, they maybe come close to covering a month's salary
I was going
for
to
all the
say.
people that are, because we have a UK team, a US team,
Oh,
and then we
wow.
have partners around the bulk. I mean, Ian Redmond's our head of conservation. He's an OBE and a wonderful guy connected to, he was very close to Joyce. He was Diane Fossey's first research
Wow.
assistant. He's
Wow.
an eminent guy. He lectures all over the world. Well, he's been a dear friend for years, and he's our head of conservation. So every program we make has his imprimatur on it before it goes out. We also have other wonderful, knowledgeable people who are working with us. One of our head of production, his name is Peter von Puttkamer. He's been a wildlife filmmaker his whole life. He's had numerous series that he's created. He's been an Academy Award judge and done a lot. So most of our films, he's directly involved in the production arm of it, arguing with me daily that he should be able to fly, but no, he can't fly. So, but I just give you an example. I was referred to a project that was happening in Canada. This is very early on in EcoFlix. There was a place called Fairy Creek, still is, Creek, and it was a huge social unrest involving clear cutting of their old growth Douglas fir forest,
Right.
the last remaining huge, wonderful forest. And the government had promised they wouldn't let it be cut. And of course, it was being cut. And there was collaboration between the government and the logging. And the local people were losing their minds. They were chaining themselves to trees and the road. And it was a circus. And somehow I got put in touch with these people. And I'm sure you're familiar with the long process of greenlighting a film through a studio. I
Oh, yeah.
talked to these people for 7 or 8 minutes, and before we finished the first 10 minutes, I said, then we're going to make a film. And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, we're making a film. I'm going to have a crew there shortly, and we need your help. And here's what you can do. And we had people out there capturing all this footage, and then it was reduced to an incredible film. Peter Coyote, probably the number one narrator of wildlife films, narrated it. It's called The Last Stand. We equated the devastation in British Columbia with clear cutting the Amazon,
Yeah.
explaining its impressive impacts on nature. And we took to the entire industry. One of the ethos that I bring to this is that we can't tell one side of the story. No one's going to really buy it if you're just not an objective reporter.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to ask you that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got to
So
give.
we try to tell both sides, and we did. The Last Stand is on the channel. We won many awards with the film, but most importantly to me, it's a beautiful example of how you can work sustainably, how you can be educational and entertaining at the same time, and really relate all the information that's needed in order for somebody to make an objective assessment. And my opinion is if you do a good job and you've told both sides of the story, they're going to be convinced that the way you see it is probably right because that's why you think it's right. Unless you're not objective yourself, in which case, maybe you don't belong in the film business. But so we haven't sold anything. Our film is just for the channel. We allow any nonprofit that works with us can have the film. They can use it for all their purposes. They can raise money with it if they can. If we raise money, we'll share it with whoever it was that worked with us. And a number of airlines, are showing our films, Air Europa, Air Canada, and others. And we love getting them on the airlines. Again, not any real money involved, but you have a captive audience that would like something good, and there are
Yeah,
no
yeah.
commercials. We don't have any commercials on EcoFlix. I hate commercials, so I don't want them bugging people that are watching our shows.
Yeah.
And we have no time zones. So we can make a show that's 1 minute and it may cover what you need to see. We have shows that are 2.5 hours. We've done recently memorials to Joyce Poole, or not Joyce Poole, my God, Joyce is still alive. Sorry, Joyce. Uh, to Jane Goodall.
Oh yeah, Jane Goodall, yeah.
And we did another one recently for Diane Fossey, who died 40 years earlier, but they're two of the three trimates.
Mm.
And Barute Galdikas, who lives in Los Angeles and has done her work in obviously Indonesia for orangutans, she's still alive, thank goodness, and doing her work, but she's the third trimate. And so we wanted to not just sort of semi-deify Jane Goodall, who was unbelievable and fantastic, but we thought Diane Fossey needed to be recognized as well. So we've recently done that. And these are the kinds of things that we don't have to go to a committee. We don't have to say,
Yeah, yeah.
will you greenlist? And they say, well, no, we're not going to make any money on that because that's how films should be made if you're in that business. We're not in that business,
I mean, you're doing a brilliant job, but it's your money, right? And you're being incredible philanthropist.
mostly.
But for longevity, it should be a business, shouldn't it?
Oh, yes.
You should be getting subscription. So have you consciously not thought about, right, let me go to Netflix and go, hey, you've got money. You know, you see a Morgan Freeman documentary on it every day, or someone else is doing it. And we all know how they work, right? And they make a lot of money. And I haven't
Yeah.
got any problem with the film business because, the film business does reveal a lot. The Ocean film David Attenborough did has done an amazing amount of spending
Fantastic.
policy.
And the Barack Obama Parks films are
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely. All of that. But they are very much that traditional model. So how do you see what you're doing becoming more than, and don't take me the wrong way, I think you're doing brilliant, but kind of like a pet project for a very nice person trying to do something.
Yeah.
To be something that makes a shift, to
Yeah.
make it commercial so that we get
Yeah.
more audiences and more kind of, getting the funding to help these projects.
Nobody gets that better than me.
Mm,
Um, there's several answers to that. I'll start with the first one, and that is I tried to be a subscription early on. Our original model was it was very cheap, $3.99 a month if you join for a year.
yeah,
And if since you're donating to a nonprofit when you join, you get a tax deduction.
right.
And since we work with nonprofits, they'll also get a tax deduction if they're involved in it, and we'll share the revenue with them.
Yeah,
And in fact, we asked our nonprofits, look, if you go out and you ask your followers to support by joining us, we'll give you 100% of the money.
right.
So 49.99 or $50 a year was what the subscription would be. If they got 1,000 people to join, they get $50,000. That's
Yeah, yeah,
big
yeah.
for a nonprofit, and it didn't cost them nothing, and it was our way of giving back. Well, they didn't do that. Some of them did, but most of them weren't doing that, and so our numbers weren't really growing.
Mm,
So we confronted that reality, and after 5 or 6 years, we switched to a free model.
right.
Our numbers have started to climb. Now we recognize that we need social media. We're just starting to really dig into that. We were using social media, but not as effectively. I mean, there are influencers out there that never paid a penny and they have millions and millions and millions of followers. We
Yeah.
haven't done a good job of that. I'm the first to admit it. And we're trying. It's not for lack of trying, but we're learning as we go. And so my model will never be to be a Netflix, although people
Okay.
have referred to us often as Netflix for nature, which I
Yeah.
find very nice. But the truth of it is, I was here in Los Angeles when Netflix started, and they struggled. They almost didn't make it. They were sending DVDs to people's front
Yeah.
doors.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
I know I got them. And so it's not like they had an easy road either. They
No.
figured it out in their own way, and that's what we have to do. And we're modeled differently because our goals are different.
Are you hoping that, what would help you would be, although I do think, frankly, he can sue me if he wants, but there's a load of hypocrisy with Leo DiCaprio and all of that lot because they go on about the environment and they fly over it. But you know what I mean. You get a Hollywood star that's into animals to back you, you'd suddenly get something going like that. You get someone like a David Attenborough involved. So have you looked at something like that? Because I think what you're doing is really interesting, the model, because the thing you've nailed there, which is the thing, it's quite funny, complete aside, I've been watching Stranger Things. I like Stranger Things. And you watch there's a making of it thing. And I looked at it and I thought, bloody hell, look at the amount of polystyrene and foam they made to make that thing. And all these things, they strike the sets. What happens to all of that? And people don't realize that all these things you see in the TV industry, the footprint is enormous for all this stuff. Burning things, blowing things up. Okay, a lot of CGI.
Yeah.
But have you thought about, or have you not consciously stayed away from that kind of Hollywood pull to try and get someone to be the kind of face of your channel and bring it together?
Yeah, we've definitely stayed away from that. Not because we
Can I ask
wouldn't
you
like,
why?
yeah, I was going to say, not because we wouldn't like the support of a Netflix or an Amazon. We'd love to work with them, but they don't want what we want yet. They
Mhm.
want what they want, and I don't blame them. They're making money, and that's really their goal.
Of
I mean,
course.
occasionally somebody there will say, well, let's make money by doing a good film about the nature, and
Yeah.
more power to you. But I'm closer to the end of my life than I am the beginning, and I'm not compromising on certain things. And
Brilliant.
so, just like when our film teams say, we could do this better, faster, blah, 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 if we could just fly out there and do it ourselves, I
Yeah.
say, yeah, but that's not happening. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is the 100th time we've had that argument. We'll make this film too. One of the first films we made was a film called Free Billy, spinning
Free Billy.
spinning on what you noted, the
Yeah.
Free Willy film. I know Manny, who made the Free Willy film, and unfortunately his health wasn't good, or I've been working with him. But Free Billy was about Billy the elephant in the LA Zoo. That's the elephant I was telling you I spent
Oh
years to
yeah.
get out. So we made a story. It's on the channel, and it's quite a good film, I would say. And it compared him to an elephant called Kavan, who was also a bull elephant of the same age, both from Asia, and he was in the Pakistan Zoo,
Wow.
Islamabad. And with the groups, there were 4 or 5 groups from around the world. I was involved. We got him out.
Wow.
We flew him with the help of many people, including Cher, who got involved in the rescue, to Cambodia during COVID. And we created a sanctuary. I funded it largely, and he has his own 30-acre jungle sanctuary with a
Amazing.
pool bigger than any humans ever seen. And he's living the life of Riley there. And we wanted to fly Billy to be with him. I've tried everything I could do to get him out. I offered to pay for it. We did everything.
Wow.
They've recently transferred him to the Oklahoma Zoo, and he's never seen a winter before this year. And
Wow.
he's been forced to go through his first winter. And I'm heartbroken about it, but it's just part of this world.
What are you hoping EcoFlix does? Because before we started recording, I said to you the idea of, part of what we're doing, yes, is we need to do less shit on the planet, right? Move to nuclear and renewables and get away from fossil fuels, try and use more kind of recycled material. But the area that, which is why I think what you're doing is amazing, is the nature, the natural capital. I look at the statistics of in my own lifetime. I'm 57, and the amount of wildlife that's been gone from when I was a kid, growing up in the 70s and 80s to now. You know,
And look at me, I'm older and I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, and that's the thing that I think we miss because we just see a documentary of a few elephants. We think, oh, that's pretty good. They're all sitting in Africa. We don't realize the amount of land they've gotten has just shrunk to nothing. So is that another part of what you're trying to do? Is if we had more trees, if we have more wild animals, these things help balance the crap we're doing to the planet.
Right. So there's 2 very large components to EcoFlix that we don't talk about all the time because nobody asks. Thank you for asking. So the film part of it is what I would call the outward facing image of EcoFlix. This is how we are making programs, we are partnering. And because we have no commercial space and no time limits, we have these tiny little shows. We have long shows. We have music videos about animals and the planet. We have podcasts, 40 some podcasts with amazing people. We have children's programming,
Wow.
lots of it. And what I started to mention earlier about I created a show called How the World Works. I figured it was a humble title. It was for children, and it's to answer all the questions that children ask and no one has an answer to. Like, why is the sky blue?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
You can go along for a whole day and never find somebody who can answer that question. Or what causes lightning? Or why are hummingbirds so cool? Or what did you know pumpkins are a berry? They're not a fruit or a melon.
I found it. How the world works, gravity. Really good.
Gravity's the newest one we just put out. I mean, try and explain gravity to a child.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so this is what we're doing, and we're using AI for good. Most of the time, I have the same bones to pick with AI that other people do. But
Mm,
what we're doing is we're taking AI, we're not using it for any of the purposes that I think are harmful, and we can quickly, fairly cheaply, make an important film for children between 2 and 4 or 5 minutes that opens their eyes. It's in their style. It looks like we use the Toy Story imagery of the,
yeah, I can see.
and so kids are really drawn to that. We use all different voices and some mystical fun things. And the kids love it. I have 5 grandchildren, and they've been my test subjects, and they'll watch them over
They're
and
like,
over.
Granddad, no, not again.
No, no, they want to watch them and they watch them over and over again. And that's sort of my model. When they weren't watching, I knew I was doing something wrong. And these shows we've made, I don't know, 12 or 13 of them, and now we're continuing to make them. We've even asked the audience through social media, what other shows would you like us to make? What questions would you like answered, the children to the children of the world? But what I was starting to say is, as much as we're pouring energy into the channel
Yeah.
and trying, that's our forward facing image. Behind the scenes, we're a duck paddling underwater. We've been working on projects since before I started EcoFlix, and we're still working on them. I started the sanctuary in Cambodia in 2001. I've been partnering and helping Lek to grow Elephant Nature Park. She's done unbelievable work. We've been working with Lucy to get her out of the exhibit in Edmonton, the zoo there. I've been working on a project to stop whale strikes in the open ocean for the last 6 years. Spent as much money almost on that as I have on the channel, trying to get scientific ways that we can. I mean, not many people know ships, not intentionally, not negligently, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah.
They're killing an estimated 20,000 whales a year.
It's crazy.
And we don't have enough whales. People don't know that whales are essential to the phytoplankton
Yeah.
that is the number one source of carbon sequestration on the planet. You kill whales, you kill yourself. And so I've been trying my best to work with experts, whale experts, and a lot of them know so much more than I do, but they're still in their own silo.
Mm,
I'm not restricted by knowing things. I can ask stupid questions. I can push the envelope. We're working with drone technology now to do some pretty incredible things that I'm hoping in the next year to be able to report. We now have a technology that we can stop whale strikes for the most part in the open ocean, which would be something I could go to my pillow for the last time and say, you weren't totally a waste of space. So we got that. I mean, we've rewilded 7,400 acres of land in Botswana. We're working in Costa Rica to stop sloths being killed. We're working in Indonesia to start the first elephant sanctuary in Indonesia. We're in South Africa trying to rewild or wild, not rewild, animals that were bred for hunting, which have never had a chance. We worked with a group to save civet cats because they're being used for this coffee trade. That's a horrible thing. And we're still working with Lucy to save Lucy in Edmonton, Alberta, because she's in jail there in a zoo and they're doing horrible things to her.
what is Lucy, an elephant?
Lucy is she's been there for many years, very much like Billy. They lie about her condition. They claim that she's too old to travel, so it's better to leave her to die in a horrible freezing existence when she could have been in a sanctuary. Tennessee Elephant Sanctuary, often referred to as Tess, very good place. They've offered to take her at
Mm,
no charge, which is huge, and
yeah.
the zoo is still refusing. So we're trying to bring experts there.
It's a funny thing, this whole thing about, I've always had the thing, because I took, and I got a bigger one, but the little one I took to the zoo. And I've always had this funny relationship with zoos, which is one is they are wonderful because they allow children to see these things and, they're alive. They're not kind of
They
in on a
can be
screen.
wonderful.
Yeah. And then the other side of me is like flipping heck. You've got these things that have just basically been bred in captivity or stuff. Where do you sit on the whole zoo thing?
Yeah, I'm very close to it. I've been working in that industry. I tried that case. I took directors of zoos depositions
Mhm.
all across the country. I've cross-examined veterinarians. I know a lot about zoos, and I hate them.
Do you now? Interesting.
I hate them. Yeah, and not because of what you think. I hate them because they lie to us. I hate them
Um,
because they are cruel behind the scenes. They could be a humane sanctuary with
yeah.
limited space. David Hancock's a guy and lives in Australia, one of the truly wonderful animal advocates who he's an architect and he designed the Woodland Park Zoo in Texas. They have small animals and they can care for them beautifully in
Mm,
small spaces. And these animals don't suffer. In fact, they're not being they're not killed by wild predators.
yeah.
And so there's a benefit to those animals, and it is hugely educational for children, and it's wonderful. Zoos could be a positive thing, but there's something wrong with people that we want to dominate everything we see. And there was some magical thing about dominating the biggest animals and
Yeah.
sticking them in the smallest places to prove how great we are.
Mm.
And I could go on for days about how bad it is for an elephant to be in
Yeah.
a relatively stationary environment. There's just so many factual, undeniable realities to it. And that's not even getting to their intelligence and their social
Yeah.
structure and their need to travel. And if you knew what they did in the wild, and I mean, they literally travel to be where the fruits and things are growing in season.
The big wanderers, aren't they? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And they do it, that's how their physical structure developed. They can't stand in one place. They are not made to do that. And so traveling for them is natural. And what they do to them in zoos is beyond cruel, it's blind. And when you depose, which I did, which is taking the testimony of somebody under oath, the people who are in the zoo who think they're doing good things, they literally think they're doing good things for
Mm.
elephants. It's shocking the level of their ignorance. And I don't say that lightly because I'm not usually critical of people, especially when they're ignorant. It's not like you can know what you don't know.
No, I get it.
These are people that need to know and they're supposed to know and they claim to know. They argue with you. And then, I mean, I had the California, Los Angeles Zoo tell me how great they were because they were doing so much work in Cambodia. And my
Yeah.
ears perked up because I'd been in Cambodia for over 20 years. And I said, "Oh, Cambodia, that's far away, right?" And they said, "Well, yeah." I said, and what do you do in Cambodia exactly? "Oh, well, we take care of this and that." I said, "Where exactly in Cambodia do you do that?" "Well, I don't know exactly." "Well, you're the
There we go.
director of the zoo. You just said." And I said, "Well, how much do you give to this all this support?" It took me I had to get an order for him to come
Wow.
back and testify that the truth was they gave $2,500 a year.
Oh,
He
no.
still couldn't identify where it went, and he couldn't identify one good thing for an elephant that it did. This is the kind of hypocrisy, and they plastered signs that cost more than $2,500 all over their elephant exhibit to say, "We're doing great things for elephants in Cambodia."
And this is the thing that I think before we end that is really interesting about what you say, because you look at all these things, the documentaries, and we'll go back to the film element of it. And I think what you've done, the other stuff is very admirable. But if you go back to the film element, there is that classic thing where you said it right earlier on, right? They get the shot. Well, to get the shot, you've driven there generally. You may have helicoptered there. You got to stick someone in there. They've got to put a tent or whatever. There's all this stuff going on. Then you disrupt the whole thing. I mean, people are getting better. They're getting secret cameras, infrared cameras, and all that. By the fact that you never let your producers go out there, and the fact that you always use the local people, you're still going to have an effect, right? And you must know that's part of it. But are you trying to kind of create a new way of doing this film, which is
100%.
do as little disruption to the subjects that you're trying to capture?
Yeah, we're promoting camera traps. We're promoting, capturing wildlife in a completely sustainable way. So
Yeah.
we have a film, for example, on the channel. It's called Wildlife on the Edge, and it's films about wild animals in Los Angeles. And it's all filmed with camera traps. And we have another one in India that we did, and it's involving leopards that fall into wells and they're captured and stuck in factories, and the work that Wildlife SOS, our partner there, is doing is fantastic. And all these things are done without harming anybody to film them because they're very remote. The cameras are either stationary or the people are not part of the scene. They're just capturing it. A lot of it is not close-ups. We're not trying to win an award for the
Yeah, yeah,
greatest,
yeah.
camera shot. We're trying to tell the story. And we're trying to inspire children of all ages. And I mean that entirely because I'm still a kid inside and I'm officially old. But I don't think I'm ever going to be really old until I stop thinking like a child. And I have nothing but childlike wonder for nature. The more I learn about nature and the more I understand how miraculous it is, something else comes along to just blow my mind and tell me, you really don't know anything about nature. I mean, look at COVID. We stopped traveling in COVID. We were all lamenting the world is dead and no wild space could ever recover. In a couple of
Boom.
years, it rebounded in a way that we really should take notice of and give it a chance. Do it again. Not with COVID, maybe. Find a way to do it without killing our kind, but too many of us too.
I could talk to you for hours.
I'd love to.
Listen, right. So first things first, ecoflix.com, is it? What's the website?
Yeah, www.ecoflix, ECOFLAX, like Netflix.com. And you can, like I said, get it on your phone.
You can get an app for it, I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it on app on your television. Apple TV is the one I use, but we have Samsung, Roku, Tizen, I think. And if there were other big ones, we'd get those. I mean, they're not difficult. The app stores are easy to.
Well, I'm downloading you right now. Okay.
Thank
So there
you.
you go.
Yep.
And listen, I think you're doing a brilliant job. We'll give you as much support as we can. I think it's a great idea for people to start to understand what's going on. Um, what's your hope for Ecoflix in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So we've been working hard to find the right brand sponsor because I think this is a win-win situation. So many of the economically viable methods and systems for business are a lose on one side, a win on the other.
Yeah.
We don't want that for anybody. And so we want to keep doing exactly what we're doing and help a business that can help us. So, for example, I would love to have, we're in Costa Rica and in Botswana, I'm hoping to have wildlife film schools for for film graduates, professional filmmakers who would like to become sustainable, quality filmmakers. Teach them wildlife filmmaking, which is not taught in schools, and I thought, it'd be perfect for a big camera company to sponsor
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
doing. And it would be a perfect marriage. The people who go through our wildlife film schools will learn from using Red or whoever's cameras, and they'll be motivated to use those cameras and it'll promote the industry. But I really don't know how to do that. I've never done it, and I'm not able or willing to spend a lot of time on the money side of it. I don't have enough time to do that.
No, I
So
get
I
it.
have people who are trying to help, direct us and move us in that way. And I hope they're successful because I certainly haven't been. But I'm not going to stop what I think is the most important part, which is trying to help animals and the planet and getting people to watch, getting children to watch, in my opinion, is probably the most important thing we can do. If they fall in love with it early and they understand how wrong-headed society has been. I mean, this is an eye opener for anybody, whatever age they are, whenever they finally learn it. Hopefully, it will go straight to your heart and live there forever because what we're doing to our planet, the one and only place we're going to live. I mean, if Elon Musk has a seat on a plane to Mars, you can have mine. I'm staying here, and I think pretty much everybody's staying here. If you want to live in a bubble in Mars, go ahead. But I think that somebody like Elon Musk could change the world. He could throw his weight behind what we're doing, and it would be far more impactful than all the incredibly important and apparently lucrative things he's doing. And not to say they're not important, and they're not. I mean, when he invented electric cars, or didn't invent, but made them
Yeah, yeah.
show, I just thought it was one of the most brilliant things ever. And then he went political on us and he's done other things. I don't understand that. I'm not going to criticize. I just don't understand it. I think there are much more fundamental things he could do to change the world that are low-hanging fruit for him. And he's just, I don't know what motivates him, but I do know what motivates me, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I think you're doing a brilliant job. We'll put this out there. Hopefully people are listening. They'll start to download it. We'll try and see if we can get you some proper, decent sponsors. But David, thank you for all the work you're doing. I'm going to go and watch how gravity works because I need to learn that myself.
It's pretty incredible.
Thank you for joining us on the Net Hero podcast. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a delight.
You've just heard the Net Hero podcast from FutureNetZero.com. Join us as we help you find ways to cut your carbon footprint as we head towards net zero. Subscribe and follow us on social media. FutureNetZero.com. Better business, better planet.